Hi guys, and welcome to my DIY channel. My name is Annalie, and in today's video we have some amazing DIYs as well as a really fun collab coming up. For this project here, this is the inspiration that I am taking. I saw this, you can see that it was $58, and I decided that I could make it for much cheaper and also out of wood. So I went ahead and I got these plungers from the Dollar Tree to use the dowels on them, and then this little wooden round base. I disassembled everything, got them sanded because I wanted everything to be nice and smooth because we're going to be painting this black to look like metal. And then I wanted to build up this base a little bit, so I just found a piece of scrap wood that is about an inch thick, and I traced this oval on here so that I could get a similar oval shape, but I wanted it to be just a little bit smaller. So I traced it on here, and then I kind of just eyeballed it and did my own little pattern to make this smaller so that I could cut this out to put this on top of the oval, the base that I have already. So then I used my jigsaw and I went ahead and I got this cut out down to the size that I wanted it, and then of course it was a little bit choppy. So then I used my sander to get it sanded nice and smooth, and I also rounded the edges on the top. Okay, so for this next step, we're going to be using my table saw, and this is a trick that I really like to do. This is called making a dado line. So this is just basically where I cut with my table saw a little chunk out of the wood over and over and over. I go back and make several passes with the saw to make about a 1-inch gap. Where this is round, it is a little bit choppy, but it still works out okay. And I end up doing this on both of the wooden dowels that I have in different spots so that I can put them together. And then I needed a hole to go into my base, and I used my router simply just because I did not have a paddle bit to make one big enough. So then, using those little tins that you get from the Dollar Tree, I went ahead and I spray painted these white so that they could be drying. I picked up these little plastic plates in the party section at Dollar Tree. These were the perfect size for what I needed. And even though they were plastic, they were very easy to drill holes into. And so I drilled 4 holes into 2 of these plates. And then I just used some Rust-Oleum flat black paint, just some spray paint to spray paint these. This sticks very, very well to plastic. Make sure that you get the ones that says sticks to plastic because it does really well. And then I went ahead and I just got everything painted black. I'm using chalk paint right here, but I use a combination of chalk paint and spray paint throughout this whole project. But everything is going to be black on the base. To assemble this to make sure that this is nice and sturdy, I went ahead and I drilled some holes into the very bottom of the base. I traced it on there first so that I knew exactly where I was going, and then I also put a hole in the middle, and then I flip it over here in just a minute. So I'm going to glue it together and then flip it over and put a couple screws through the bottom so that you cannot see the screws, but it is all held very sturdy. You will not see me do this on screen because it was too big to do it on screen, but I end up putting a large screw into the bottom and up into the dowel of this project. Here's that screw that I was telling you about. You can see that it's about a 3-inch screw, and this actually went in really nicely because I did do a countersink hole both in the base and in the dowel, and so this held super sturdy. And then I went ahead and I just grabbed some vinyl decals. I actually just typed these up on my Cricut and printed these off. They're the exact same size, they just say Fresh Cut Flowers in 2 different fonts. And I put one of these on each one of the metal little cans that we just painted. And then I used some black chalk paint to distress and make it and to give it a chipped enamel look. Okay, so this part right here, I'm just using some scrap wire, and these are some rings that were actually left over from another project. I spray painted them black, and then I just wrapped the wire around this a few times to give me a little holder for this. And then I also did some countersink holes with my drill on either end of the second dowel that goes horizontal. I had to think about it for a minute. It's the horizontal bar. I drilled a hole on either end of the dowel. Wow, we're struggling. Okay, and then when we were done with that, I went ahead and just used some hot glue and glued this into the hole that we drilled. And this is not going to be holding anything super heavy, so this is perfect, and it actually holds really well. You guys, so this next step, I set my camera up and thought that I was filming to make this little wire setup right here and to spray paint it, but my camera battery died and I had no idea, and I went to town for like 15 minutes making this and didn't get any footage of it. So here's some more of that wire. I just combined it together in the middle and made a little loop and wrapped it around, and then I spray painted it black. Right here you can see that I'm feeding it through those holes that we drilled into the plate earlier. And then I'm going to be sizing it down here in just a minute to fit over the little metal can that we're using for our flowers. This is kind of hard to see here because of my hands, but once I got it measured to the size that I wanted it, I went ahead and clipped off the bottom and then just used some wire cutters to wrap the wire up into kind of like a little ball so that it held the plate in place so that I could hold my little flower pail to make it look like it was actually on a scale, just like you can see in the inspiration picture. And then for our little welcome sign here, I'm just going to be using this little wooden piece that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I just took the string out, painted this white, let this dry really well, and then I just cut out the word welcome from my cutting machine, and then I transferred this on, and then I used some black paint to distress the edges a little bit more, and then I put the jute twine back on, and my version of this project is done. I did change it up just a little bit, but let me know what you guys think of this dupe. This collab that I'm taking part in today is hosted by Megan over on the Crafty Quinn. This is a sweet summer dupes hop, so we are all doing dupes for just summer projects, and it is a hop, so please be sure to check out the girl down below. There will be a link so that you guys can click on that and then go around and see each girl in the hop. Please be sure to do that. You do not want to miss out on their amazing talent and inspiration. This next project is inspired by this sign right here. I actually don't make a wood round. Mine is going to be square, but I'm taking the inspiration of using a name over a letter, if that makes any sense. You'll see what I mean. But this is going to be a wedding project for my nephew. He is getting married, and so I will be making this for them of my own version. So you can see here that I'm using some Dollar Tree signs that I'm going to get all sanded and clear all of that glitter off. I did get them cut down to size because I want them to be a little bit more square than rectangular shaped. And then one of them I painted gray in the Waverly chalk paint color Elephant. set that aside and I let that dry. And then this other one we are going to be actually cutting out. So I went ahead and I cut out a giant letter E in, I think, just a typewriter font. And then actually, you can see that I used vinyl here to put this on because I wanted to use a perfect stencil. And we are going to be cutting this out with my jigsaw. Little tip here, to help me get started, since I was starting in the middle of the wood and I couldn't get my blade down in there, I just used my Dremel to make a hole for my jigsaw blade to go down into. After getting everything all cut out and sanded down to make everything smooth, we're going to be going ahead and painting this in the color white. And white? It's white. Waverly White Chalk Paint. That's what I'm trying to say. Using my ruler and a paint marker, I went ahead and I distressed this a little bit and also gave this some faux shiplap lines that I will actually be sanding down here in just a minute to make them look just a little bit more old and worn out. And then just using some scrap wood that I already had in my pile, I just cut this down to size for a frame. I believe this measures 10 inches by 11 inches. And I went ahead and I just got this all stapled together. And then we will be painting this frame gray in the Waverly chalk paint in the color Elephant. Okay, so then using my hot glue, I went ahead and I just glued the top board with the E cut out of it onto the back board right there that you can see that we painted with a background of gray, so that you can see that contrast coming through. And then right here, this is where I put in their last name. I actually cut that out with my Cricut. I'm not going into detail about that right now because I do have a video coming out with Cricut at the end of the month, and so I will be explaining how I made that there. But here is a sneak peek of what I will be doing with my Cricut. And then I went ahead and I put a little bit of vinyl down there at the bottom, established 2021, and then I went ahead and got this all stapled together so that it was all complete and ready to go, except for I did of course have to do a little bit more distressing because we all know that I have to distress everything. And then the inspiration for this next project is this little picture right here. I actually took a picture of this in Hobby Lobby to see if I could recreate this. So we're going to be using this piece of wood right here and then measuring the top. I'm just eyeballing it to make some roof lines. And then I just used my jigsaw to get this cut down to make this look like a little house with a roof. And then I got everything sanded down, and I also rounded the edges with my sander really, really good to give this a smooth, round, cute little shape. And then using these wooden dowels that you can get from the Dollar Tree, I'm going to be measuring these out and cutting them down, and this is what I'm going to be using for the metal. We are just duping metal like crazy around here with some wood and just by painting it black. It works though. So then I went ahead and I got each one of these pieces cut down to size. I did measure them using my house as a frame so that I could see how like the shape that I wanted for my little house to take place. And then of course I got this painted in the with white chalk paint. And then we are going to be using toothpicks. Yes, toothpicks. I went ahead and I just kind of eyeballed these measurements, broke them off so that they were all about the same size, and then in just a bit here we're going to be painting them black as well. Using an extremely small bit, I went ahead and I am drilling holes, 2 holes in each one of these dowel pieces, and I just taped them to the board to help keep them from rolling. I simply just assembled these small wood pieces using hot glue to hold them together because I'm not going to be putting any force on them, and so the hot glue actually really works well for this part. Okay, after the holes are drilled, we're going to go ahead and get this painted black so this looks like metal, hopefully. Everybody cross your fingers or just pretend that it's metal. And then I went ahead and I just hot glued each one of these little toothpick pieces that we cut into those holes that we drilled right there onto my little metal frame. And then I just cut out the words, actually it's a decal, Home Sweet Home, and I used my vinyl as a stencil. And then I painted this on. I painted it on so that I could distress it like the rest of it. Using some boxwood greenery from Walmart, I went ahead and I glued these onto the sides, and then I glued some jute twine and wrapped it around the base of the floral, just like you could see in the inspiration picture. This little trick right here is no secret. I know lots of people use it, but it always just works really well. So I went ahead and I put some black paint on each one of the tips of those little toothpicks, and then I put them onto the board where I wanted them and pushed down so that the black paint created a little dot everywhere that I needed to drill a hole in the base so that my holes lined up. And then once all my holes were drilled, I went ahead and I put some hot glue over each one of the holes. And then I pushed this cute little metal frame over the top of it. And that's it, you guys. This is what it looks like. Let me know what you think. Alright guys, thank you so much for those of you who are still here at the end for my end segment. Thank you. And thank you to all of those who love it as much as I do. I have another Darren Daily for you guys. Get ready for this one because this one really struck home for me. So he talks about how to make choices. So our lives and many things in our lives reflect our choices, like our waistline reflects our choices, our bank account reflects our choices, our cleanliness, our hygiene, our way of living, what we choose to do for hobbies. They all are choices that are made by us. We make choices every single day, and depending on the choices that we make, we are either creating a happy life or a miserable life for ourselves, or maybe even just a mediocre life, is how he explains it. If you're anything like me, I make bad choices all the time, you guys. I make bad choices all the time. I spend money where I shouldn't spend money. I eat things that I shouldn't eat. I do things that I probably shouldn't do, like staying up really, really late. It's actually like 1 o'clock in the morning my time right now as I'm filming this. Bad choices, okay? So he talks about how to make good choices. How do we make good choices? It's really easy to remember, but not very easy to do. Typically, the best choice or the good choice or the right choice is usually the hard choice, okay? We're like rivers, is how he calls us. We're like rivers, and we naturally like to take the path of least resistance. We want to go away from change. We want to go away from things that are hard. We want to go away from things that we're uncomfortable with or that we fear. We go down the path of least resistance, but if we want to make good choices or better choices to see our lives change, we need to make the hard choice. And so that's how you know what choice you should make so that you can get a different result. He explains that people who make the passive choices, the path of least resistance choices, they might make a choice to get impatient. They might make a choice to eat a burger. They might make a choice to spend money when they shouldn't. Basically me, he was describing me. And then the harder choices are pick the salad over the burger, right? That's hard for me. Don't spend money, save money, work on not getting impatient with your kids or your family or whoever it might be. So these are the harder choices. He talks about how if we took an entire day and just made the hard choices and went upstream instead of downstream and made hard choices, he said that we would be amazed at what we would see in ourselves at the end of the day and how much change we would see. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm willing to give it a try because I want to see some changes. I want to see some positive changes. I want to work on a few things, and I want to be better and make better choices. So if you guys are with me this week, let's work on doing hard things. Let's work on doing things that scare us. Let's work on making the harder choices this week and see how our lives change even just after 1 week. All right, you guys, that video will be linked down below for you. Be sure to check out the next girl in line. It is a hop, so make sure that you click on her video and it will take you around. Go all the way around to complete the hop. Please like this video. Subscribe if you guys would like to stick around, especially if you like these end segments. And leave me a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate you guys always, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.